What's going on, everybody? This is Island Hopper TV, and today we're going to show you the top budget travel destinations, most affordable places for you to travel here in 2023. Let's do it. First up, we're headed to Southeast Asia. This here is Vietnam. Now, the currency here is called the Vietnamese dong, and it takes 2,500 Vietnamese dong to equal $1. So you get an idea of just how big the currency devaluation has been for Vietnam. Now, if you want a high-end hotel resort, that's going to cost you around $100 a night for a luxury hotel. If you wanted to just get a hostel dorm, a normal cheap budget hotel, it's anywhere between $5 to $10 per night, pretty much across the country. Now, if you wanted a mid-range hotel, expect to pay around $20 and all the way up to $50 on the high end. And that's pretty consistent from Saigon all the way up to Hanoi and everything in between. Next up, we're headed to Mexico, where they use the peso. Currently, $1 equals 17.50 pesos, and the accommodation in Mexico is anywhere between $5 to $15 per night for a dorm or a budget hotel. And then for mid-range hotels, you can expect to pay $40 to $100 per night. Luxury resorts can get quite expensive and exceed $200 depending on where you're staying in places like Cabo or Puerto Vallarta, maybe even Cancun. But for the most part, you can find nice luxury accommodation for under $200 in most cases. Now, you can get food here for around $2 to $3 per meal. If you wanted a mid-range restaurant, expect to pay $10 to $20 per meal, and then even exceeding that for high end. Some places to check out are going to include Riviera Maya, the central area of Mexico, all the way to Oaxaca, and then up towards Baja and Puerto Vallarta. Next up, we're going to take a look at the Philippines, where the US dollar will give you 55 Philippine pesos to $1. There are cheap accommodation here as well, anywhere between $5 to $10 a night for a dorm room, and then $20 to $50 a night for average mid-range hotels all across Philippines. There is over 7,000 islands here. And if you wanted luxury resorts, they also have that in places like Boracay, and then other islands have some luxury resorts that can go well over $200 per night. Food here is also very affordable. You can easily eat for $1 to $2 for lunch on street vendors, but they also have high-end food restaurants that can cost you $10 to $20 per meal. Manila and Cebu City tend to be the most expensive. In fact, Manila is one of the most expensive places if you go to BGC, which is Bonifacio Global City. But beach resort here, bungalow, $20, $30 for one of these hotels on a paradise beach like this. Just find the island. There are many deals just like that. Next up, we're to Indonesia. Now, Indonesia has many islands just like the Philippines. In fact, it has more. Some of the popular places people like to go here are going to be Bali. They also have Kalimantan, Java, Sumatra, many different areas where you have wildlife like the Komodo Islands. They also have Raja Ampat. So this is an amazing place to visit. You can also see the beautiful islands of Palau in West Papua. The currency they use here is the Indonesian rupiah. It is 14,844 to $1. You can find cheap accommodation at hostels for $5 to $10, as well as mid-range hotels between $15 to $50. And then they do have high-end resorts in places like Bali. Indonesia is famous for its rainforests, orangutans, tigers on Sumatra, and then they also have beautiful underwater diving, some of the best in the world. The largest city here is Jakarta. Many people just stay 1 to 2 days and then go explore the nature. Next up, we're headed to South America. This here is Colombia. The currency they use here is called the Colombian peso, and it is $1 to 4,400 Colombian pesos. And then you have cheap accommodation that ranges anywhere between $5 to $10 per night for a dorm room, and then mid-level hotels are going to cost you around $30 to $60 in places like Medellin or Cartagena. And then you have the luxury resorts on places like San Andreas or maybe even in Cartagena that cost over $100 per night, but still not too expensive. Average meal cost here is $2 to $3 for street food, and then if you wanted a restaurant, it's anywhere between $10 to $20. Another affordable destination is the capital, which is Bogota. You can find cheap accommodation and food there as well. My favorites here are going to be Medellin and Cartagena, as well as San Andreas, the island. Next up, we're headed to India. Now, India is another affordable travel destination. $1 equals 82 Indian rupee. Now, you can find cheap accommodation here very easily in places like Delhi or Mumbai. And then if you go north towards the Himalayas, you have places like Rishikesh. You can also get cheap accommodation here for $5 to $10 per night on the low end, and then you can find mid-range hotels are going to be anywhere between $30 to $60. I have seen some expensive luxury hotels in India in places like Mumbai or Delhi, but on average you can get a nice hotel for around $100 to $150 a night, and then if you wanted luxury, they have over $300 a night. I have seen cheap meals here. You can get them for as cheap as 50 cents at times in some places. $1 is common, but $2 to $3 seems to be the going rate for street food. And then obviously they have restaurants where it's around $10 to $20. India is a very expansive country and you will need over a month to explore it. Also, guys, I want to let you know that we did make a best islands in the world video. If you guys want to check in the descriptions for that and watch that video if you love island hopping. Next up, we're headed to Tanzania. Tanzania uses the Tanzanian shilling for their currency, and it takes 2,350 Tanzanian shilling to equal $1 US. While here, you can visit the Serengeti National Park, as well as go to Zanzibar Island and even Mount Kilimanjaro. Accommodation here ranges between $10 to $20 per night for a cheap hostel or basic guest house, and then mid-range hostels and lodges can range anywhere between $30 to $100 per night, and then of course some luxury accommodation. But I would say overall, getting around Tanzania can be very affordable. Next up, we're headed to Nepal. The Nepalese rupee is 131 Nepalese rupee to $1 US. As far as travel and accommodation goes here, it is considered a very affordable country with $5 to $10 a night. Cheap accommodations, mid-range hotels range from $20 to $50 per night, with the more luxurious options being over $100 per night, depending on if you're in the Himalayas or doing some trekking. You can also get cheap food, which expect to pay around $2 to $5 per meal at a restaurant, and then even cheaper with street food. Kathmandu and Pokhara are some of the most popular destinations that you'll want to visit. Now we're on to Central America. This here is Costa Rica. $1 US equals 533 Costa Rican colon. That's the name of the currency here. Now Costa Rica is more of a mid-level affordable destination. You can find some cheap accommodation in some areas for around $10 to $20 per night at hostels, but like I said, it is more in that mid-range, $40 to $100 per night for the medium style accommodation, and then luxury options can go well over $200 in places like Papagayo or even in Punta Arenas. While here you can also get affordable food between $5 to $10 per meal, and then when you're at an upscale restaurant you can expect to pay anywhere from $20 to $50 per meal. We did a full Costa Rica travel guide. I'll put a link to that below. Next up, we're here in Turkey. Their currency is called the Turkish lira. It is 19 lira to $1 US. Here in Turkey, you can expect to find a mid-level pricing for affordability, hotels and cheap accommodations starting at around $10 to $20 per night. And then as you go out into the country, you can find anywhere between $50 to $100 a night for mid-level accommodation, and then anything above that in places like Antalya along the Turkish Riviera. Food prices here are comparable. They're around $5 to $10 per meal. That's a budget-friendly location, and then if you go to restaurants, it can exceed that in some places. While here, I recommend checking out Istanbul, which is in my opinion one of the most beautiful cities in the world. Also going down to the Turkish Rivieras to Uludeniz, as well as Fethiye, Cappadocia, and other ancient sites. Next up, we're headed to Laos. Now this one uses the Laotian keep currency. It is 17,469 to $1 US. Here in Laos, you can find very affordable accommodation. This is going to be one of the most affordable countries on the list, with hotels ranging sometimes even below $5 for a cheap budget hotel. And then you can find mid-level hotels in the capital for around $30 to $75 per night, depending on where you're staying. But overall, this is definitely one of the more affordable places that people go for culturally enriched experience. A popular route that backpackers like to take includes Thailand, Laos, and then Vietnam, doing the Golden Triangle in between. And now we're going to leave Southeast Asia and we're going to head to Europe. This one here is Romania. The currency here is called the Romanian leu, not the euro, and it is 4.54 leu to $1 US. In Romania, it is considered one of the most affordable destinations in Europe, along with others here on the Eastern Bloc, including Bulgaria and Moldova. But this one here has Transylvania, which is popular for Dracula. You can find accommodation anywhere between $7 to $15 per night for the affordable accommodation, and then mid-level is going to range anywhere between $40 tonight all the way to $100 per night, depending on where you're going to stay. You will get a lot of value for your money here in Romania with your currency. It is also known for its natural beauty. As you can see, a very beautiful country with mountains out here in Eastern Europe. Food and cultural attractions are relatively low cost as well. Most people start here in Bucharest, which is the capital. And as we continue to show you around the budget destinations, if you're enjoying this video, please give it a like and consider subscribing to the channel. Next up, we are headed to Egypt. Now, Egypt is in the northern part of Africa, right there along the Nile River, and home to the ancient Egyptian pyramids. The Egyptian pound is the currency here, and there are 30 pounds to $1 US. While here, consider visiting Cairo, where you can find cheap accommodation between $5 to $10 per night at guest houses and hostels. But you can also find mid-range hotels for $20 to $50 per night, and then well over $100 at some nice places across Cairo. Food tends to be $2 to $5 per meal, and then some other places to check out are going to include Alexandria, the Red Sea area like Sharm el-Sheikh, and then just doing some diving out there, and even going south to Aswan, where they have more Egyptian stuff along the Nile. 7 to 10 days in Egypt seems about right. Next up, we're headed back to Southeast Asia. This here is Cambodia. The currency is called the Cambodian Rial, and it is 4,104 to $1 US. While here, consider visiting places like Phnom Penh, the capital, as well as in the north, they have Siem Reap and Angkor Wat, where they have the ancient temples. Now, accommodation here can be affordable anywhere between $5 to $10 for cheap accommodation at hostels and guest houses, and then hotels range anywhere between $20 to $55 per night. And then they have more luxury accommodation, which goes over $100 per night typically. But like I said, very affordable. Food can be had here for $2 to $5 at any street vendor, and restaurants are also very affordable across Cambodia. One of the more affordable destinations on this list. Cambodia is now becoming popular with people who like to visit beach destinations, as they're going down to Sihanoukville and checking out some of the Cambodian islands, which are becoming hot spots for travel. Next up, let's talk about Greece. Now, this one here is on the Mediterranean. They use the euro. Budget accommodation here at a guest house can be as cheap as 15 to 25 euros per night, so it is a mid-range affordable country, but definitely one of the most popular in the world. Average hotels here range between 50 to 100 euros per night, and then go up from there to 150 to 200 euros. Islands like Mykonos and Santorini are considered very expensive destinations, but some of the other islands you can definitely find cheaper accommodation. As far as activities go, also mid-range in terms of pricing, costing around 20 euros to get around. So do some planning before coming here, but it is worth it if you go to the smaller islands, where you will find cheap food for around 2 to 3 euros for a meal. Doing island hopping in Greece is also popular on the ferries, where the tickets range anywhere between 15 euros all the way to 50 euros, depending on how far you want to go. Now we're headed back to Thailand. This here uses the Thai baht. The currency is 33 baht to $1 US at the time of making this video. Cheap accommodation here can start at between $5 to $10 per night for budget accommodation, and then go up from there. Average hotel price ranges between $30 and $60 per night, but you can also find luxurious accommodation in places like Bangkok, Phuket, and across the islands. Some of the popular places you'll want to go while here are going to be Phuket, Bangkok, Chiang Mai, Chiang Rai, Koh Samui. All those places are popular, as well as Krabi. Food here can be very affordable. You can get a meal between $2 to $5 on average. We did make a very thorough playlist of Thailand, which I will put a link to below, but if anything, watch our full Thailand travel guide, where we show you the top 10 places to visit in Thailand. This is probably the premier travel destination right now for backpackers and affordable budget accommodation in the entire world, so keep that in mind. Mainly because it touches on everything backpackers are looking for: fun, budget accommodation, good food, good people. Here we are back in South America at Argentina. The US dollar is 1 to 228 Argentine pesos, which is the currency they use here. Some of the popular places people go are going to be Buenos Aires, along the shore here of Rio de Plata, and then in the north they have Iguazu Falls, which is along the border with Brazil, one of the most popular places. Accommodation here ranges between $10 to $20 per night for a budget accommodation, and then $40 to $80 per night for the mid-level accommodation, and then over $120 per night for the more luxurious stuff. You can also go to the far south to Tierra del Fuego, which is where they have Ushuaia, so do check that out. Thanks everyone who's been watching this video of the best budget travel destinations. If you guys enjoyed this, please consider subscribing to the channel, liking the video. Also drop a comment letting us know your favorite budget travel destinations, and we will see you on the next one. I will put a link to the best travel destinations in the world as well as the best islands in the world. Click either of those next. Thank you to all of our channel subscribers and channel members who support us.